So we established that knowledge is important, but if you have a firm with lots of employees, you don't want the knowledge to stay in the head of one person, because that person can move away to another employment, of course. And you want people to learn from each other, as we said before. So you need to have some kind of knowledge transfer. And now we're going to talk about knowledge transfer between projects. So projects are task and goal oriented. So the generated knowledge after the project has ended might get lost. The team has learned together, they have learned from their mistakes and they have learned from what went well, but then they move on to other projects and the knowledge stays in their head and does not travel anywhere from there. So that is a problem. There's often within companies a lack of routines for how to transfer knowledge between projects. And before we go into that, we're going to just look at what projects have as a goal. And those of you who have studied project management, you recognize this. It's iron triangle, and that is that a project have a goal that is set in time. They have a deadline. This is when we should be done with this development project and the innovation will be launched into the market, something like that. There's also a cost limit. There's a budget that you cannot transcend. And there's a function. There's something that this, whatever it is, should be able to do. And then there's probably some sort of requirement list here that describe this is what the product will be able to do once you're done with the project, with the development project. And you should be done at this time and it should be this cost. And projects seldom look beyond the time frame. What happens after? The people who have worked in the project have learned a lot and they know a lot about this project and about the product and the process to develop the product. And then there might be another project that is similar to this later on. And the knowledge from the first project might get lost and not leveraged by the second project. So there is learning on two levels. The learning of individuals that we talked about. The individual learns through working in the team and through working with a development project. But then there is also the learning of organizations. The organization would like to tap into this knowledge, the things that the individuals have learned, and that is often hard because there's often so that knowledge is closely tied to the person who developed it and is shared mainly through direct person-to-person contact. But then there are a few strategies that's often ITC based, where knowledge is carefully codified and stored in databases where it can be accessed and used easily by anyone in the company. In that way, organizations can learn. It is, however, time-consuming to do so. Some ways that have been suggested in the literature to transfer knowledge would be to have a database with final reports after each development project. That, however, takes time, and there's not always time to do something like that. Another suggestion is micro-articles, that is shorter descriptions of what happened and lessons learned from the project that would be in a database. Or a learning story, something that is kind of written more like a story and explaining the main events in the projects, also a little bit shorter than the final reports. Or it could be simply to talk to others with experience of similar projects before and during projects. That, of course, assuming that those people are still in the company. This is probably the most practiced example of how to transfer knowledge between projects. These occur, but I would guess, as far as I've heard people talk about these kind of things at companies, that the final report and the things in the database are seldom read. This phenomena is called project amnesia, where development projects go on, or other projects, it could be other projects as well, go on and then everything is forgotten. And that could be due to high time pressure towards the end of the project. The project has to be completed. A new task already wait for this dissolving team. There might not be team to write a story about what they learned from the project. It might also be insufficient willingness for learning from mistakes of the persons involved. Or there might be missing communication of the experience by the involved people due to wrong modesty. I mean, they perhaps don't want to blow their own trumpet and say, oh, I did this so very well. Or it could be the fear of negative sanctions in case of mistakes. It's not that fun to write down your own mistakes and put them into a database that anyone can find later on at a company. Here are some other reasons. Lacking enforcement of the procedure in the project manuals. You're not forced to do it, therefore you don't. Team members do not see a personal use of coding down their experience, writing down what they experienced in the development project. There's also difficulty in coordinating debriefings. Persons cannot be engaged for systemic project conclusions since they're already involved in new projects. So there might not be time to actually do a lessons learned exercise after the end of the project and record that somewhere so that new people can take part of what you learned.